if you're choosing your SEO vendor based upon price, it's probably not going to work out for you, right? Not in 2024, there is no cheap and easy solutions. Do you really want to miss out on a 6 or 7 figure case?
Welcome to the Tip the Skills podcast, where we discuss running and growing your law firm. I'm your host, Maria Monroy, president and co-founder of LawRank. Today, I am joined by Mike Perez, the founder of iLawyer Marketing. iLawyer Marketing is technically a competitor of LawRank's. We did talk a lot about SEO. Specifically, is SEO dead? We talked about AI, premium versus low-tier SEO, good versus bad websites, using Yelp for lawyers. We touched on a lot of digital marketing. I hope that you guys enjoy this episode. Mike Perez, welcome.
Thank you for having me.
You should feel special.
I feel very special.
No, you really should. I don't bring on a lot of vendors and definitely not a lot of competitors, although I've had a few.
I feel very honored then.
You should. So let's talk about what we do best, SEO. Do you think it's dead?
Dead. I think everybody should just sell, get rid of it, just do paid only.
Yeah.
Kidding.
No.
No, SEO is definitely not dead. It's changing rapidly, but it's definitely not dead.
No, not at all.
Far from it.
I know. I asked Chris Dreyer, I just had him on, and I asked him the same question.
What'd he say?
He was like, no, like, I wouldn't be here. It's a rhetorical question.
I've been doing SEO for literally 20 years. And I think every single year somebody says SEO is dying, SEO is dead. Like, I just laugh now because I've heard that every year.
It's
for the last 2 decades.
It's so silly. But someone the other day said to me like, oh, well, now we can just do it with AI. It's going to take over. And I'm like, riddle me that. So AI is just going to do everyone's SEO. So who wins? If you're all doing it.
Yeah, if everybody's just relying on AI, then everything's going to look the same, right? And usually with SEO, you have to be doing something different, something better than what other websites are doing, what other companies are doing. And so if people just have this heavy reliance on AI, that is not going to work out for them in the long run, right? If you're just relying on AI to generate your content, shortcut, hey, it's quick, it's easy, that is not going to work out. I've already seen multiple sites in the past few months that have gotten completely torched, right? Sites that had tons of traffic because they were AI generated content. People said this is quick and easy, but then they got hit, and not just in legal, I'm saying in all of the SEO space, but people are talking about it because if you're doing shortcuts in SEO, usually that may work for a short period of time, but in the end, you're going to get hurt.
I think it rarely even works for a short period of time anymore. I think it's too advanced to get to that. I mean, I think it does sometimes, but it's short-lived. And then you don't want to piss Google off. No,
that's right. And once you piss Google off, once Google loses trust for your domain, you're kind of screwed for a long time.
Yeah, you are.
Right? If you get algorithmically penalized, I've seen sites that, these aren't manual actions where you get a notification in your Google account. These are algorithmic, so you don't 100% know if you've been penalized, but I've seen it where sites have been algorithmically penalized for 3 years or longer.
Yeah, so have we, and it sucks. Especially when you inherit it and you're like, well, we didn't.
Those are the worst, right? Is you get an account and you don't know all the back history of a domain. We can go use tools, but there are no tools out there that tell you the full story, right? Ahrefs,
I call it
SEMrush,
RFs. And I call it SEMrush.
Everybody has their different names. I think SEMrush is officially SEMrush because that's what they use in their commercials,
that's good to know.
Right? And then
is it Ahrefs?
I've heard it both ways.
It actually
there is no wrong answer.
Okay, good. I'm happy. It's like, what is it? Tomato?
Yeah, exactly. But those tools, they don't tell you everything that Google knows because people will say, hey, we checked and you've only built this many links this month. We checked in Ahrefs. And that doesn't tell you the full story. And then there's some people that will intentionally block those crawlers from being, so that their sites aren't be discovered on those backlink checking tools. So that's not always the full picture. And it's certainly not the picture that Google knows. Google knows more than obviously anybody else.
So you mentioned that it's changing rapidly. What are some of the changes you're noticing?
The way that Google's treating AI content. Google kind of changed their policy, right? Originally, they said, we are against this. Mm-hmm. Don't use this. This is against our guidelines. And then they changed their policy and they said, okay, it's okay to use us. And I think some people got carried away with that. They started kind of going crazy with that AI generated content. And now at the end of the day, like it can work, but only if it's done the right way. And I think the best way to do it, if you are going to do it, is to utilize it, but then you have to have humans that are editing that content, not just relying on that. If you're just relying on an output from any of those LLMs, whether it's Google's Gemini or ChatGPT or Claude or any of these solutions, if you're just copying and pasting what you get from that, it's just not going to work out in the long run. So,
do you guys use AI content?
We do not. We do not.
Same. We don't. I think it's one thing for Google to say, oh, we're not going to penalize it. It doesn't mean that they're going to reward it. And they're not going to reward it. We've seen it. Like we've taken over projects that had AI content.
Yeah.
And literally, they're actually rough to take over.
They are. Again, going back to that trust factor, right? Once you lose Google's trust, you get hurt. And there's a recent Google Docs leak, right?
Yeah.
Where the API leak that everybody's kind of buzzing about right now. And you have people saying, oh, you can now see 14,000 ranking factors. These are not ranking factors. These are attributes that are part of the API, but that does not mean that they are in use. There is no weighting assigned to any of these things. Some of it is completely deprecated, meaning it's not in use anymore. So you can't just assume just because it's mentioned that is what is being used by Google's algorithm, right? So, but there is a lot of references of trust in that documentation, multiple references. So we know that trust is a huge issue when it comes to Google. And yeah, once you lose that trust, you're screwed for a long time.
Absolutely. Now, what are some of the mistakes? Because you guys have been doing this forever. When did you guys start?
So the company started in 2006.
That's nuts. So almost 20 years, dude.
Almost 20 years. And I started doing it even before iLawyer Marketing was formed. I was doing it for the last couple of years. And in fact, I kind of got my start at FindLaw back in the day where I was a rep there, sold a lot of SEO packages and those kind of things. But what happened is I had a lot of clients that were pissed at me. Why? Because FindLaw did an awful job with the SEO. And so I literally started losing sleep at night. I'm like, I have all these people that are angry at me. And I had a little bit of history. I'd studied marketing in college and I had experimented with kind of digital marketing and even before while I was still in college. And so I started doing SEO on all the clients that I was selling that I had sold at FindLaw and sometimes working 14, 16-hour days. It was crazy. Mm-hmm. But after a certain period of time, I realized that I was way better than FindLaw. And I said, all right, I'm out, going out on my own.
I mean, I would argue that there's no one better than FindLaw. They rank themselves everywhere for everything. It's just an inherent conflict of interest.
They're the best.
For themselves.
For themselves.
Why would you ever want that?
Yeah.
It like blows my mind. And it's almost like a rite of passage. Like every single law firm has worked with them.
They have.
It blows my mind.
They've been around a long time, right? So
yeah. I have a question that I've been wondering, like the whole time I've owned LawRank. So I need you to answer it for me. Okay. Was the name iLawyer Marketing, was it a play on the iPhone?
No, this was before. So
was it really?
The original was I either was going to go with E for electronic or I for internet. And so I decided on iLawyer Marketing for internet lawyer marketing.
That's crazy.
And in fact, I first called it iLawyer Marketing and would in the content, and again, Google was different how they treated text back then. You can do way more manipulation back in the days than you can today. But I would refer to myself as internet lawyer marketing. So it was easy to rank for a lot of that stuff.
That's crazy. I didn't know that. So when the iPhone came out, were you like, fuck?
I'm like, perfect.
did you like think?
No, yeah. I'm like, this is awesome. Yeah. Because everybody after the iPhone, everything was something, right?
Yeah.
So yeah.
iPad.
That was luck. That's crazy. That wasn't me being smart. That was just lucky.
So I had known that you had started, I thought it was 2007. So I kind of wanted to Google when the iPhone came out, but I had a feeling it was later because I used to work at AT&T. Yeah. So I was like, I think that's a coincidence. Okay.
Totally.
I've always wondered that. Yeah. So I'm so glad you cleared that up for me.
Total coincidence.
That's crazy.
Yeah.
Okay. So back to mistakes that lawyers make? Because you've been doing this forever. So what are some of the mistakes that you see lawyers make time and time again?
I mean, for me, the biggest mistake that I see is law firms not investing enough and having a great website. Your website is the foundation of all your digital marketing success, right? So if you're spending a ton of money on paid ads or you're spending a lot of money on SEO, you're sending visitors to your website. If your website does not impress those visitors, if it's not built with conversion rate optimization in mind, then you are costing yourself, right? Because if you can increase the conversion rate of your website, then you're just going to get more leads and ultimately you're going to get more signed cases.
I
So
agree.
that's the biggest mistake that I see is people that think, oh, we can just get a cheap website and that's good enough. Or yeah, I did a website and it's fine. Fine is not good enough.
We won't work with cheap websites. Actually, your websites are one of the only websites we'll work with because you guys develop correctly, design and develop correctly. Your websites are beautiful.
We have really good designers. And my designers, we have 2 designers that have been with us for 10 plus years. We have another one that has been with us for 8 plus years. So they're very good at what they do. We pay them well to make sure we keep them. So don't try to steal them.
I will try very hard not to.
But yeah, they're very good at what they do. And then they are also trained to learn how to design with SEO in mind, right?
Oh my
Not
God.
just for
Absolutely, of
aesthetics, but we want to design for the search engines, and we also want to design for humans to try to increase that conversion rate.
Absolutely. So the biggest mistake I see is, and I wonder if this irks you too, when a law firm lets the office manager or the marketing person be the sole decision maker on who's their SEO provider is going to be. And what does that marketing person or office person do? They're price driven.
Yep.
And to me, it's like, yeah, we can talk all day about the cost of SEO. But what isn't being addressed is like, what is the lost opportunity cost if it doesn't work? Right?
100%.
Do you see that a lot too?
No doubt about it, right? Because if you're choosing your SEO vendor based upon price, it's probably not going to work out for you, right? Not in 2024, there is no cheap and easy solutions.
No.
And the reality is there are very good companies that are very good at SEO, and we're all premium providers.
I mean, there's very few of us.
There's very few of us. I feel like you guys are absolutely one of the best in the industry. I feel like we're one of the best in the industry. Rankings.io, those guys are great at what they do.
We don't need to give Dreyer any shout outs. He gets enough shout outs. We can cut him out of the equation.
Dreyer's earned it. He's, he does a great job, but there's very few that are good at what they do, right? So if you're choosing a company and it's based upon price, you're mentioning the lost opportunity cost. Well, do you really want to miss out on a 6 or 7 figure case, right? And obviously the goal is for us to try to generate as many of those as we can for our clients. But we've been doing this a long time. We know we're a little bit smarter, I think, about the way we do marketing than most other firms. And if you're just doing low cost options for SEO, you can't do the best SEO possible when you don't have enough budget, right?
Well, it's a race. It's like, let's think of it from like a car race, right? I'd argue the design of the website is what gets people excited. If we're talking about a car race, it's like what my little boys are like, oh my God, that's such a cool looking car. I could care less, but they're excited. The engine would be the development of the car, right? And then the driver is the agency. Like, do you want a driver that doesn't know how to drive the car or like is really good at driving 10 miles an hour? Like, what is it that you're looking? It's a race. Like you're saying, hey, I want to finish top 3.
100%.
Who are you going to pick? Yeah. And I think people everybody it's like so weird because when they're making the decision, they think like, oh, anybody can do this. There are only 3 spots.
Yeah.
So I just find it nonsensical. I'm very confused by what goes on.
Yeah. I mean, I get it from a budget perspective, right? Like you're trying to save money and you're like, okay, how much is this going to cost me am I going to be spending $120,000 or more on SEO services? But how many cases does it take to pay for all that marketing?
Literally
one solid case.
Or one low-hanging fruit case per month.
Right.
Which we should be able to do probably both. If we're honest, it's going to be a lot more than...
That's right.
I think both of us would feel like we failed our clients if all they got was either one big case the whole year or one low-hanging fruit case every month.
No doubt about it. So, that is a big mistake as well as choosing a vendor based upon price. There's no doubt about it.
Yeah. Do you ever fire clients?
Absolutely. we have a rule in our office, the no asshole
Me
policy.
too.
Okay.
We say that too. We don't work with assholes.
Whether it's employees that are rude to each other, we'll fire them. We don't need those people in the office. One bad seed can ruin it for everybody else. Nobody wants that. And then same thing with clients. Like
they're part of our culture, dude. We work with them so closely. Our team works with them so closely. Yeah. You can't have that.
Absolutely. So we've had clients where we were absolutely crushing it for, they were doing well, but then just the way that they treated and talked to our account managers or even reception calling in, we don't need that. Like life's too short to work with people like that. So we will absolutely fire clients. It's also more fun to work with people that you like. Like when we're dealing with a client and they're just a good human being, like we want to do better for those people. And I'm sure you guys are the same way, right? You want to win for those people. So it's the people that are rude, like, again, life's too short. We don't need that.
Totally. I also just don't get it because like what Marna always says is like, we can't fight for you and fight with you. So like you have to choose.
That's right.
And I just don't get it. Like somebody that has, in my opinion, like we have a lot of power. Yeah. Like I know that they think that they have the power and like this is going to be an unpopular opinion, but like we can make you money. Like why would you be super rude? And even like if we drop the ball, and I'm sure you guys are the same way, like we'll own it. That's not the issue. The issue is like, how are you communicating and are you jumping to conclusions? And because we're all human, like we're definitely going to drop the ball at some point, some way. Like we didn't get any, whatever. It doesn't matter. It's like, we're like literally rooting for you and like you're going to like demoralize our team. I think that that's like a huge, huge thing.
Agree.
And like my sales reps are trained, like if it's not going to be a good fit, like do not even dare.
We're very selective about the clients that we work with, and we can tell during that process, right? Because we always, the first step for us is trying to get to know the firm. All right, tell me about your goals. What do you need? What do you, how many cases would you like to get a month? How many leads would you like to get a month? But during that process, it's a vetting process for us as well, right?
Oh,
we want to see, is somebody being realistic?
That's the big one. Because I've gotten it where it's like, well, what's your goal? Well, we want to generate 50 more cases from the internet, and they're already generating a good amount. And I'm like, honestly, that's not going to happen unless like you expand, you also do a really big PPC budget, you do this, and that. And I'm very like I'm not going to set the wrong expectations.
Right. Yeah, because at the end of the day, if you bring on a new client and they have these unrealistic expectations, they're just going to be angry the whole time.
Oh, the
saying,
whole time.
Like, I signed with you because of this. So for us, we'd rather be open, honest up front with our prospective clients and say, here's how we see it. Here's what we believe that can happen. And it's at the end of the day, it's Google, right? We have no control over the algorithm. We had a client that I think it was last week. He said, hey, you have this client here. They're ranking number 1. We just want to be number 2. Can you put us number 2? And I'm like, we're dealing with a Google algorithm that we have no control over.
And what's your brand like versus their brand? Like that also plays into it.
So that's another thing is this is a firm that did not invest at all in their brand. They didn't have nearly the experience. They didn't have nearly the credentials of this other firm who'd also been doing it for way longer. And this is a fairly new firm.
That impacts
That's not realistic to be able to say, okay, like, even if it was in our power, hey, we can place you number 2. That's not how Google works, right?
Yeah, I mean, you might be able to, but you might you just don't know with certainty. And I think people think we have that much control. And anytime you're working through a third party, you're not going to have that control. They can change anything, any day.
And Google's algorithm literally changes nearly 5,000 times a year. So I think in 2021 it was about 4,500 algorithm changes that they made. 2022, 4,700, somewhere along. So it's like we're talking about nearly 5,000 algorithm changes every single year. So there's no way to completely control that. And in fact, something that we believe works today may not work tomorrow, right? Or next week. So that's the thing about SEO, is constantly changing. So we don't have any kind of control. But, what we can do is base our efforts off of what we know has worked for our clients. And we both have clients where we've done amazing, have gotten to the top of Google in the most competitive markets in the country. And there's very few agencies that can say that.
Oh, absolutely. Especially consistently. Like you can have one-hit wonders.
Yeah.
But that doesn't impress me at all.
Right. That's what I tell, when people are vetting us and saying, okay, show us what you guys have done. I'll always say to them, make sure that when you're talking to somebody that they can't just show you one show pony.
Or even
right?
3. Because sometimes also it's like they weren't the ones that generated the results and they're just
That's right.
Does that happen to you?
Oh, absolutely.
That is so annoying.
We've had firms that have left literally in the number one position for all the primary terms there, and again, we don't just look at the rankings, right? We're paying attention to leads and all in cases and those kind of things. So we're paying attention to all those metrics. And so we've had firms that have left us and for somebody that kind of just said, oh, we can do it for way cheaper. And what happens? A lot of times those guys fall off. They fall off, but that does happen where somebody will undercut us going for that cheap price.
That's the downside to us putting our logo at the bottom. Because we are one of the only agents, like some of the only agencies that do that. Everybody else is removing them because either they don't want you to see when they have shitty results.
I think that's the real reason. Like for us, it's a badge of pride. We're like, look what we did. This is a LawRank site, or this is an iLawyer marketing site.
Totally.
And so, and for us, that's how we get a lot of leads as well, right? People see that we got these websites up to the top in a competitive market and they say, hey, we saw you got this site ranking number 1. So then they'll call us.
Yeah.
And I'm sure you guys get the exact same thing.
Absolutely. That's how we get our leads.
Yeah.
Now, what are some of the things that your clients can do to help your efforts?
That is a good question. Certainly when it comes to local pack rankings, fresh reviews, right? Recency of reviews matters. So if somebody says, oh yeah, I've got plenty of reviews, but if that firm hasn't gotten a review in 6 months, that matters. Google is paying attention to the cadence of reviews. So if you're getting 5 reviews consistently a month and then you get 55 reviews the next month, there's probably something off there. That doesn't look normal, right? In the same way, if you've gotten 10 reviews every month, and then you start
0.
getting no reviews, that's a problem. So making sure that a firm pays attention to the reviews and always keeping it top of mind is very important. The other thing with that is that 98% of consumers, when they go to find an attorney, they will look at your reviews before they hire you, right? And so we know this because we do studies every single year. We want to get inside the mind of the consumer and say, okay, how do you go about hiring a lawyer? And so there's certain stats and data points that we know, and one of those things is reviews. So if 98% of people are looking at your reviews, and you better make sure you focus on those. So that's one thing that they can absolutely do.
I agree with you 1,000%. I talk about this, everything you said, I have said except the study thing. But so if you guys, because I know a lot of our clients listen, like if you're not listening to me, there you have another expert telling you the same thing.
Yeah, reviews are huge.
It's the other thing.
Getting people to provide photos, right? Mm-hmm. Photos, like that's important. From a conversion standpoint, there is nothing that is going to do a better job, at least on your website, than an impressive video, especially if you have client testimonials in those videos, because written testimonials are one thing, but when you have a client on video, that is way more impactful to a prospective client. They are looking at those kind of things. And so if your website does not have video and your competitors do, I can guarantee you're missing out and you're losing out on potential cases. So video is huge. And so that's another thing. And if they don't have it, then they need to invest in it. Or if they do have it and it's been years, consider getting new things. The other thing you can do with that is use that video for paid social, right? So most firms that I know don't have a great organic social following. I think the reality is most people don't give a shit about what a lawyer puts on their social.
Oh, I agree.
Maybe for credibility, like they want to go and see, what's on their Facebook profile just to make sure.
Yeah, like you care, like you're posting it and you care. Yeah. I always say, unless you're willing to be Top Dog or Law by Mike or one of these like high production kind of funny videos that aren't really about PI necessarily, and it's like 9 to 1, so 9 entertainment videos to 1 of like what you actually do.
Right.
I don't think that social media, the way that lawyers are trying to do it, is going to work a ton. I think it does work to be top of mind for past clients.
Yeah.
That I know for a fact works because a lot of lawyers have said that to me. Like the moment I started doing videos, I started getting more referrals.
Yeah.
But what I always tell everyone is it going to, like, even if we do like infographics, right? Like testimonials, settlements, holidays, is that going to generate cases for you? I would be lying to you if I told you that it did.
Yeah.
But it'll do what you're talking about, which is like, it shows that you care.
It does. And this was interesting. So we did a study in March and April of this year. There was over 1,000 participants in it. And we asked them, what sources online would you use to do your research on which lawyer to hire? No surprise, 92% of the participants said Google. No brainer, right? But what
was the other 8%?
So this was, so it wasn't 8%. It was, we said check all that apply.
Oh.
So I think it was over 30% of the people said that Facebook is another source that they would use. And I think what they are probably doing, and this requires more research on this, but I think why people would use Facebook is to go and look and see either pictures or videos of the firm. Reviews. Most people, well, speaking of reviews, Yelp also is at 30%, right? People are looking at your Yelp. I think
that's so interesting to me because I would never use Yelp to hire a lawyer.
And a lot of people do. And it's some of it depends on the area of the country that you're in.
Just never understood
East Coast,
that.
West Coast, Yelp is up there, right?
I never understood that because it's just not what I would do. It just seems like that's something I would.
It for restaurants?
Yes.
But not lawyers.
No, or like a doctor. It's like, I know doctors don't have that, but it would be, to me, it's like the equivalent. Or like an accountant, or like, what's another, I don't know, any sort of consultant. Like I just would never. Would you?
But people do. I definitely do. I use it.
But would you use it for a lawyer?
I do. I've hired lawyers before and I
From
did.
Yelp?
Only to check their reviews. So I check their...
To cross-check.
Exactly.
That makes
so
sense.
I think that's what people are doing in this study, right?
Okay,
it's
I would do that.
So they're using Google to do the research. They find that lawyer, and then they go see, okay, what's on their Facebook profile. And it could also be, does this firm share the same values that I have? You know, whether it's politics or whatever. Politics are crazy these days. So maybe people want to see, what does this firm believe in? So really, I think the point of this is make sure that you at least have an updated and...
What about Avo?
Avo?
Yeah, like the reviews.
Nobody knows about Avo.
But you don't think when somebody searches the firm, because you have to think, how are they getting to Yelp?
They're going to do
the firm name
reviews plus reviews.
You don't think
you're going to see Google
up?
Reviews? I've seen it way less than
Avo has gone downhill.
They've gone downhill.
Yeah, I don't recommend their directory anymore.
Right.
It's been years.
Yeah.
And some people still are like, oh, I'm advertising with Avo. I'm like, why? Google and see if they come up, and they don't.
That's right. But so that's what I would say is if you do put your law firm name in there and put reviews after it and then see what pops up.
Yep. And
if
then
anything pops up, then you should be at least trying to get reviews on there, right?
That's what I do for
people can see
LawRank.
it. Yeah.
That's probably what you do for iLawyer.
Yeah.
So it makes perfect sense.
Yeah.
Okay. So get reviews consistently, video testimonials.
Don't ignore your social, your reviews, and don't ignore Facebook. And to go on Facebook again, I don't encourage anybody spending a bunch of time on it, but at least make it look good.
Yeah.
Put good pictures in there, put videos, keep it current, and make sure there's nothing in there that's going to cost you potential clients in terms of what you post on Facebook.
I agree. What do you think the future of SEO is going to be?
We'll continue to see a lot of changes. Like right now, you see what are they called? The AI overviews that Google is starting to spit out. They've also backtracked a little bit on that. So they've kind of pulled them back. So the percentage of those things displaying are less than they were. But I think we're going to see that. We're going to see those AI answers that get spit out, certainly for longer tail searches. We don't see it very often for the bottom of the funnel terms like, accident lawyer Dallas or something like that. But you do see them a lot of times for questions. And so I think that is actually going to take away some traffic from law firm websites if Google continues to show those. And then what we will see in those is I can guarantee you that we will eventually see ads in those AI overviews.
Really?
Oh, 100%.
Of course, they monetize everything.
They monetize everything. There's no way they're going to let that, because that's all above the fold, right? That's like the top of the search results. And so they're 100% going to be adding ads to those.
And hopefully people get into that early. Because like what we saw with LSA, right?
Right, yeah.
Everyone that got and did it early was like getting so many cases
They were
super
it, right?
cheap, right?
Better than anything.
Better than anything, literally. And now, at least for us, it's back where SEO is actually cheaper than LSA. If you're ranking, I want to like clarify.
Yeah,
you do have to be ranking.
You have to be ranking.
Otherwise, it doesn't work.
Yeah. But costs are going to continue to go up on the paid side of things, right?
I think
so that
everywhere.
is why SEO is so important, because if you look at it for anybody that's doing well, if you actually looked at the cost per lead or the cost per signed case, if you're ranking well, you will not find a better cost. It's the lowest when it comes to SEO. If you're not ranking, that's a whole different story.
Yeah,
but
I've said this a gazillion times. It should be your lowest cost per case, period.
100%.
Period. Wait, I had another. Oh, and have you seen like the Reddit? Like, and then I've seen TikTok sometimes, like actual videos.
Yeah,
search.
And I think Google's trying to dial it back a little bit for
I haven't seen it
Reddit.
in a few weeks.
So, and part of the reason they were dialing it back is because some of the answers that were popping up, like some of it was, and they're more careful about things in legal and medical,
always, legal,
money,
medical, and finance. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. And so they're dialing that back a little bit more, but I think we will see that come back. So you kind of always have to be
You think
prepared.
They'll put ads in there too? Probably. They could put I guess they could.
I mean,
they could do anything.
Yeah, it's kind of wild. I mean, sometimes you see LSAs, then you see text ads, right? The normal traditional ads. Then you'll sometimes see ads in a map pack. And then even in the last few days, I've been searching, and then they've blended organic, and then you see paid ads below, and then organic.
Yeah, they're playing with it. It's weird.
So Google,
they're testing shit. I think
they're testing a lot. So
they're always testing. But like Marno said something to me somewhat recently that I was like, wow, I had never thought about that. And he like rolled his eyes like, you're an idiot. But he was like, Maria, LSA is the paid version of the local pack. And I was like, oh, like I felt so dumb. I'm like, yeah, duh, of course. But they're going to monetize. They're going to try to find a way to monetize it. Because if you think about LSA, it like feels so much better than an ad because it's like it's Google verified and Google screened, right? And I think the ads were starting to, like, people were catching on to it more, right? And that just made it so sexy. And it has the reviews and it's pulling from G&B, but you can leave your own reviews. It has the picture.
Yeah.
And I was like, oh yeah, that makes sense.
Yeah.
Well, awesome. Thank you so much for joining me.
Thank you for having me on.
Thank you so much to Mike for everything he shared with us today. If you found this story valuable, please share it with someone you want to see succeed. Subscribe so you never miss an episode, and leave a 5-star review. It goes a long way to help others discover the show.